Alright, so just testing out the power systems today. The solar panels in yesterday. Ran out of battery power in the camera, so I didn't show you the wiring, but the charge controller's in. It's just a cheap PWM charge controller. I'd like an MPPT controller, but anyways, it's all wired in and it's charging the batteries. Alright, just when I thought I had everything ready to go for power, my 20 amp charge controller went up in smoke. As you can see, it all melted. It was a cheap charge controller, but I was hoping it would do. So another $300, $338 for this more powerful MPPT controller, which should actually give me about 30% more energy out of the solar panels anyways, which is nice. So we're going to try and install it.
Lions roaring in the morning sun, searching for a longer day. People feeling like the light has just come. We must never stop the way. Birds chirping and I hear my name, grasping into life. Life is happy but it's so insane. We must merely make a start. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk.
So we're charging at 16.9 amps, it looks like. Volts, amp out, 17 amps. In. So it's basically dropping the voltage from 18 down to the battery voltage, and that's the difference between a PWM charger and an MPPT. A PWM the batteries will pull down the solar panels from the 18 volts down to the 12 or 12.7 or whatever charge your battery's up to, and the solar panels are rated at their 17 or 18 volts. So if you take your watts at 300 watts for my 310 watts at my 255 watt panels at 18 volts, and take that down to 12 or 12 and a half, that actually drops your wattage by about 30%. So you'll drop from 300 watts to about 200 watts charging. So the MPPT converts the difference between the 12 and the 18 into usable power. So it isolates the solar panels and batteries, and I believe there's a DC to DC voltage converter. So as you drop the voltage, the available amperage increases instead of simply just losing that amperage for charging. So now we're charging, looks like about 15 amps. To read the manual and see. 12.8 volts. All right, good to go. All right, so I pretty much struck out on the fridge. I can't get it to shut off. It is cooling, but I think I need to get someone who knows something about fridges in here, because I don't have the tools to figure out what the heck's going on. But it is cooling. You're gonna manually turn it on and off. But the next mess to sort out is the bilges. We are taking on a little bit of water. I'm not quite sure where it's coming from yet, but here's essentially the mess that's been left, very similar to the fridges. So we've got two pumps, a bigger one and a small one. I think the small one's got a built-in check valve. So I'm going to leave the small one down in the low part of the bilge. I'm going to move the bigger one maybe forward a little bit, and basically I can use the big one. If the water gets that high, I can just manually turn it on, but I'll leave the small one on the float right now, just to take the little bit of water that is coming in away. So I'll let you watch.
Savannah.
Alright, two working bilge pumps for now. I'll clean it up when I can get in and get the proper parts, but this will at least keep the bilge fairly dry. Already you can see that little pump. I think it must have a check valve in it or something, but it keeps a lot more of the water from coming back. So there we go. Alright, the fridges don't seem to be working. Not sure why. Here is the wiring that was left. Ran for a few minutes and then cut out. The one compressor seems to be heating up and cooling, but anyways, it uses seawater to cool the coolant, and the pump runs solid. Now someone's put a switch in between the controller and the seawater pump. I imagine it's been acting up for a while. It ran just long enough to basically get a green light on the survey. So that's basically today's project, is try and figure out how to get the fridges running, or at least one of them.
Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a roll.
Negatives I can pull off there if I need. So that should work. And then the only thing is, I need a new thermostat, but if I disconnect it, so if I disconnect the thermostat, it should stop calling for heat, and it should turn the compressor and the water pump off now, instead of the water pump running all day long. Hopefully nothing goes up in smoke. Let's turn the radio off so we can hear if we hear any crackling. There we go! Okay. Let's simulate it no longer calling for heat. There we go. And calling for heat. Compressor, pump, awesome. Alright, so in theory we should have a working fridge. Eventually I'll get some more wires and clean this up even more. So salt water should come through here and cool the condenser instead of having a fan because it's so hot. So next step will be getting this one running. And then also put the thermal overloads in. Gotta figure out which is which though. So the thermal overload, if this gets hot, so this is normally on. So what I'll do is I'll run the thermostat through here and then into the control. And then if the thermostat is calling for heat, but the thermal overload is tripped, it'll open the switch and disconnect, essentially stop the call for heat. So I'll get that in. I gotta get some wire and some connectors first though, and some ties to clean this all up. But once I get a couple new thermostats, we should have a working fridge. So got the fridges all running. I gotta pull this fan out. I was testing with it a bit, but quite a bit cleaner now, less components. Everything's tied together, so that's great. And again, I've got a mess to clean up, but that will happen when it does. So, fridge, frost, a little bit of groceries. I didn't want to get too much just in case it didn't last long, but it seems to be working. The worst thing about having the fridge running is now I got to make my own lunch.